A new documentary premieres tonight right here on Channel 11 that takes a sweeping look at Chicago's Puerto Rican community. It's called Chicago's Puerto Rican Story, and it airs tonight at 7:30. Here's a look at some of the issues the film tackles.
Some of Chicago's labor industries were abusive and unregulated. Many employers violated labor contracts, made arbitrary deductions from workers' salaries, and in many cases didn't pay them at all. It was common practice for some employers to call immigration during payday week. Puerto Ricans, although U.S. citizens, were arrested and held for days before being released. Those that had been arrested had no way to recover their earned wages.
The film was written, produced, and directed by the husband and wife team Antonio Gloricelly Franceschi, and they join us now. Welcome to Chicago Tonight. Congratulations on your documentary making it on the air. You told me before we went on camera that you spent about 3.5 years working on it. Both of you are long time. In your case, you were born here. In your case, you've lived here for years in Chicago. What did you learn about the Puerto Rican community that you didn't already know about it when you were making the doc?
I think some of the things you learn is the struggles. The struggles that in the different areas, particularly bilingual education and some of the other areas with no police representation, no political representation, you learn about the struggles, because my dad would share these stories with us.
Like what?
Well, he would share that when he came here, particularly he didn't speak English. So when he came here, he had to learn the language, and what would happen a lot of time is he had, for instance, he worked at this one company, and he would work a week, we'd pay you next week, next week, next week, and a month came by, and finally the immigration came and picked him up and locked him up. They kept him there for about 2 weeks, and he could never recover his funding.
Which really makes no sense, because your dad, being Puerto Rican, is a U.S. citizen,
Exactly.
and yet immigration would pick him up.
Yeah.
Gloricelli, this story seems to be, in large part, about immigration, even though Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens.
Right, so we call them actually migrants. And I am a migrant myself, having come here.
Migrants as opposed to immigrants.
Exactly.
You've gone from one place to another.
Exactly. And so we look at this, this scope of migration period in the documentary, and we look at the huge influx that occurred during the 1940s and the 1960s, and really look at the struggles, where they settled, to look at, you know, even the trials and the struggles that they went through, and really the great thing is the contributions. Because I'm glad that we did this, because I understand now fully how brave these pioneers were, and the work that was done to pave the way for people like myself to have bilingual education when I came at age 6. I am a product of bilingual education. There are now elected officials at every level of government, and it was because of these young and courageous pioneers who came to make ends meet, to make a better living for their families. So it's a really great family documentary.
And as you mentioned, they came as U.S. citizens, and in this clip you hear about U.S. citizenship as both a plus and a minus.
We were a foreign culture with American citizenship, and that created some confusion in some areas, because we were outsiders, and yet we had the club membership as citizens to get into things.
Antonio, the Puerto Rican Day Parade is a huge deal in the community, probably more so than for any other group. Why is that?
I think it's because of the pride. I think the pride, the culture, it's a people that family is very important, very significant to them, and I think it's an opportunity to come out as a family. It's an opportunity to come out and celebrate your heritage and celebrate some of those things that their family went through, and just pass it on to generation. So I think that excitement brings them out, and they're so proud. They're proud people, and they love being here, and they love the fact that they are Puerto Ricans.
But you know, the parade, the people who put it on, it becomes a major force within the community. We see, from the time the parade started, you have historical footage of the parade. Yes. In the documentary. Again, it's more than just, it seems to be more than just a pride thing. Gloricelli, what are your insights into why the Puerto Rican Day Parade is such a big deal?
You know, my first one attending, I think I was maybe 7 or 8, and it was the first time, you know, I'm from Puerto Rico, and I grew up there, and I never understood why, when coming here, there were so many flags, and I really think it deals with the fact that they long for something that they've left behind. And that day, the Puerto Rican Day, you know, holding up that flag is just almost a memoriam, if you will, of I love it, I miss it, and it's still a part of me, even if I am thousands of miles away in Chicago.
You know, as I watched this documentary this afternoon, Antonio, you got great historical footage. Quirky things, too, like old educational movies that were made by the Catholic Church to help educate people about how to interact with Puerto Ricans. Where did you get this stuff?
Well, we researched a lot of archives. We had a good friend of ours, Fred McDonald, who has the largest private collection of archive footage in the country. We worked exclusively with him, and he helped us find a tremendous amount of footage. You
know, people are familiar with the riots in Chicago in 1968. Maybe not so much the Puerto Rican, the riots in the Puerto Rican community in 1966 and 1977. Why did they happen?
Well, you want to go ahead?
I really think it was a lot of things that just culminated to that point. A lot of people would say, oh, it was just vandalism, it was just youngsters that just wanted to go out there and go wild. But really, if you look at the things that were really they were dealing with poverty, they were dealing with low employment rates, they were dealing with very
conflicts
little
with the police, you talk
very
about.
little city services. Police